Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Main Character Syndrome. I'm your host, Cheesymanfredo, aka Alfredo Morales, and with me here, as always, I got Julian, my new fresh co-host. Say hi, Julian.
Hello.
And joining us together, we have a new guest for the first time on the show, Gamer's Tavern. Say hi, Gamer.
Greetings, fellow gamers.
Nice, excellent. There he is. And what's up? But for anyone who's new, Gamer, what do you do? What's your gimmick? What's your angle?
Well, my gimmick is that I make videos on YouTube about video games, and I make a lot of bad jokes, and I tell a lot of puns. You know, I'm a bit of a pun enthusiast.
Bit of a punny guy, if you will.
Yeah, that's correct.
Do you got any puns off the dome you could hit us with right now? Are you a pun planner?
Yeah, I guess. I have so many. It's hard to think of, the best ones. But I knew this guy, and he was dating. He was dating one of those turfs. So
Yeah.
He went he went out one day and like a protest type deal, and somebody approached his girlfriend and started kind of like harassing her, and then he said, "Hey man, get off my turf."
That's a pretty good one.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Another banger from Gamers.
And that's one of my newer ones.
Gotcha. All right, Gamers. I got a question. Do you consider yourself knowledgeable at the Super Nintendo system?
Knowledgeable?
Yes,
no.
Very.
Okay, cool. Because let me tell you about. I don't know if I've told you this, but I have a little project coming up. It's me and my buddy are designing a monster manual for a video game that doesn't exist, right? And I kind of like our kind of lore is that like, oh, this is in an alternate reality. This game existed for the Super Nintendo, and we managed to pull out the monster manual from that alternate reality and bring it over here. So we're not making a game. We're just bringing like a supplementary material of that game over to here, right? And basically, we have like a little Discord server where we're just like throwing back and forth little designs for monsters until we reach to a certain point. Now, I kind of want to see. I kind of want to ask, how much do you know about like Super Nintendo RPGs? Because an angle that I want to do with this monster manual is that like it'd be pretty realistic to an actual Super Nintendo game. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty. I would say I'm pretty well versed in Super Nintendo RPGs. That's kind of my specialty.
Oh hell yeah! One thing I wanted to know is like, what's I know that some earlier consoles had kind of like a limit on what color they could use. Also, like the amount of space that one had. Because I looked up to see like how many monsters are usually found in like any kind of Super Nintendo RPG, and I found that the number kind of varies, and I got a couple of them written down, and I wanted to see if you could help me shed some light on it. But I know that for Dragon Quest VI, there's like 236 monsters. For Earthbound, there's 159. For Chrono Trigger, there's 246. For Super Mario RPG, there's like 136. And would it be too much to ask if you could like explain why those numbers particularly? Like if you, I don't know, if you had to guess or something?
Well, the limitation is more so like the amount of sprites that can be on screen simultaneously rather than the total amount of enemies in the cartridge. But in general, I think almost all Super Nintendo games are going to have fewer than 255 total enemies. And the reason is because that number is pretty significant in hexadecimal. 255 equals FF in hexadecimal. And that was kind of like a hard limit on a lot of Super Nintendo variables. A lot of them would just cap out at FF or 255. So that's probably why you're not going to find very many games that have more than 255 monsters in them total.
Mm. That's interesting. Yeah, because as of recording right now, we have roughly around 60 monsters. The project has been kind of like on and off again, because it's kind of something we do in the background. Like, I don't necessarily sit down and try to come up with monsters. Sometimes I'm just driving and I'll be like, oh, that'd be a neat idea for a monster, and then I just quickly draw it and I throw it in the server. Um, but yeah, I think that sounds pretty good. I'm trying to aim for like 200, and it's also in my head. I think a little bit more about how this game would realistically work, and let me describe to you kind of like the mechanics I have for this game, and you tell me how feasible that would be in a Super Nintendo. But basically, the game would be you have your little character, and it's very similar to Dragon Quest. Turn based battles, yada yada. And there's also the feature, and I know that other Dragon Quest games have this feature where like sometimes a monster would stop a battle, and they would be like, "Oh, you're a pretty cool guy. Can I join your party?" kind of thing. And that's what this game would have. It would have that feature, right? But there's like an additional feature I wanna add where like at any point in the game you could choose to kill one of your monster characters that's on your team in order to like take their experience points. And
Mm.
I don't know if any game has done something like that for the Super Nintendo. What do you think?
I can't
Uh,
imagine I've seen anything like that from that era.
I mean, there's so many weird, interesting Super Nintendo games and RPGs and stuff. So it's possible there's like an obscure one that maybe did something like that. But as far as the bigger, more mainstream ones that I've played, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that does that. But there are the Shin Megami Tensei games where you can fuse demons, and there's a couple of those on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I
Um,
heard the Shin Megami is very kind of interesting with monster collecting because like monsters like join your team for like little random events could trigger a monster joining your team that are very like esoteric and specific. It's not. It's like on the opposite side of the spectrum of something like Pokemon, where just incredibly straightforward to get a monster on your team.
yeah, I think there's Shin Megami Tensei 1 and 2 for the Super Nintendo, and those are the precursors to 3, which came out on the PS2. The third one is the most popular one, or way more popular. More people know about it because they came out in the U.S. But the first two only came out in Japan. But there are translation patches for them, so you can play them now in English for the
That's
Super Nintendo.
that's pretty cool. Did the first two Shin Megami have like the monster like joining your party system?
Yeah, and I think actually they're not like the first Megami Tensei games. I think it started on the NES, but it was called like Megami Tensei on the NES. And then on
Mm,
the Super Nintendo was Shin Megami Tensei. So I don't remember now how many there were on the NES, maybe like two or three, and then there was like around two for the Super Nintendo. But I think as far as the first one on the NES, they already had the monster or the demon joining your party kind of thing.
mm, that's pretty cool. I like that.
A
All
somewhat
right.
minor
Actually, I
aside,
think the Megami series came before Pokemon, so it did the whole
yeah.
monster catching thing before Pokemon did.
That's yeah. That's cool. I didn't know that. Although I bet I probably could have I probably could have guessed that because sometimes how many times do you hear about like, oh, this thing wasn't the first thing to do this specific thing. There was actually a more obscure one that did it or something.
Yeah, and I think
Like,
even Dragon Quest did the monster collecting thing before Pokemon because I think there's a Dragon Quest Monsters game for the NES, and that definitely came out before Pokemon.
didn't I think the appeal of Pokemon was how streamlined the monster collecting was. You know,
Yeah, and it was
um,
made by well, it wasn't really made by Nintendo, but Nintendo kind of owns most of the IP, so they marketed it with their vast quantities of wealth.
hmm
So I think Pokemon, the reason why it got so popular is because it was the first time something like that really caught on in the West. Because before that, monster collecting was something you only saw in Japan. Most of the most of the monster collecting games were exclusive to Japan until Pokemon, got big here.
It
And
also
then
debuted
Pokemon is
on
the
the
one.
Game Boy, making it more accessible than a normal
Yeah,
like home
console.
that
console game
helped a
would
lot.
be.
Oh yeah. Um, Thinking about this stuff in the back of my head, I always wanted to like attempt to do some sort of video saying like, oh, the this is a very generic title, but something like the genius of Pokemon, and mostly because I think there's like 100 little billion things that like. I think Pokemon is like a situation where like the stars aligned in a very perfect way, and there's like so many little like smaller things about Pokemon that have a greater like kind of appeal. Like for example, like the Pokeball is such a simple shape, and it's like it's almost like they perfected it in the first go because the Pokeball has never changed its design after like so many years, right? Because it's just perfect. It's one of it's like a it's like it's the
Well,
Gachapon
it's
ball.
it's iconic.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I think that's where a lot of other like so-called Pokemon killers like fail is that they like lose track about the little like smaller kind of details about the thing.
I
Um,
think in order for something to be visually iconic, it has to be simple so that it
yeah.
can literally be an icon. If it's too complicated, it's not going to have that really eye-catching, simple design. So the Pokeball definitely has that simplistic but really eye-catching design.
I think also even the Pokemon, even those early like I would say the first two generations did a pretty good job with like having very simple looking Pokemon that really do feel like they exist all in the like they feel more like animals, unlike something like a Digimon, which feels more like fantasy, more out there.
Yeah, but they have their own appeals. I think Digimon has its own like unique, different appeal. But
I guess what I'm
the
saying, like nothing against Digimon, because I think a lot of the Digimons are really fucking cool, but nothing against them. But what I'm saying is like this is why Pokemon is making more of the bigger bucks than like Digimon is.
Yeah,
You
that's
know?
why Pikachu is still kind of used as the face of Pokemon because he has a really iconic design that it just never gets old. It's always it's just such a great design.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of
Also,
the designs from Gen 1 are pretty good like that.
I think also Pikachu is lucky that it's like a yellow mascot, and there's not too many of those. If you think about it, I can only think of something like what Winnie the Pooh. Like I can't think of too many like well-known yellow guys.
Yeah,
Like
except
nothing.
for I guess for the Simpsons.
Okay, I guess the Simpsons counts. Never mind. Never mind. I was wrong.
That was a nice save with the Digimon comment, by the way. I was about to call the Council of Digimon fans, and they were going to hate
Murder
mob
me.
you on Twitter.
I
Well,
like
Digimon,
Digimon.
the designs are kind of they're a little bit too busy, but they look a lot of them look really cool.
I,
I do like some of the designs.
what's that one meme where it's like someone photoshopped like Pokemon evolution is like fire dog on fire becomes bigger dog on fire, right? And like Digimon evolution is like dog on fire becomes dog in tank, right? And I think
Dog and tank wearing jeans.
wearing jeans, obviously, right? And it's this kind of big leap that I think is what kind of loses people sometimes. I think you could also see that with like I think the least popular Pokemon are the ones where like the evolution it feels too different from each other unless like the final evolution just looks too cool. or something. I cannot pull any examples right now because maybe I just made this up on the spot. But you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to, before we get too ahead in this, I want to pull up an interesting factoid from the top of my head about Pokemon. Because a few years ago, I did some Pokemon reviews on my website, and I decided to do like some research on Wikipedia about Pokemon. I already knew a lot about it just from having played the games, but I wanted to do like extra research to find any information I didn't already know. So, one thing I learned that was interesting is that Pokemon, the original games, were inspired by the Final Fantasy Legends series from the Game Boy, which in Japan is known as the Saga series. Um,
Oh.
so
Are
I've
the
never.
graphics like are the graphical designs similar to it, or is it something else about the Saga
Um,
series that like shares its like DNA with Pokemon?
but they go into detail explaining that the creator of Pokemon, he saw that Final Fantasy Legend was the first like actual RPG on a handheld that was like good, and also probably the graphical style, because Pokemon, the original games do kind of look like they look similar to the Final Fantasy Legend games, but also they mention specifically the move system in Pokemon where you have a limited amount of each move, like 20 out of 20 or whatever. That was inspired by the Final Fantasy Legend or Saga equipment system because the equipment had durability. So an iron sword would last you 20 uses and then you had to buy another one. So they took mechanics inspiration from those games as well. So I
That
think
is a
Nice.
that's
lot more
something not too many people
pragmatic
know
than what
about.
I was told as a kid. When I was younger, I always heard, "Oh, Pokemon was invented by Gunpei Yokoi, and he wanted to have a bug collecting game, like when he collected bugs as a kid."
I think it's that too, right? Like
It might
it's
be
a little
half and
bit
half.
of. I mean, the thing is that like when you create things, it's not always just like, oh, this is this one specific thing, but you're like throwing everything else you like into something.
Right.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it's all like all part of it.
And
Yeah.
in actually playing the games and in retrospect, I feel like they must have taken inspiration from the Shin Megami Tensei series, considering that came before. And there's a lot of stuff in Pokemon that's like, it can't be a coincidence. Like in Pokemon, you can store your Pokemon in PCs somehow. And
Yeah.
in the Megami Tensei series, you can also store your demons on computers or PCs, at least in the early Megami games, not in the later ones.
When I hear that, it makes me think about when conservatives call all new technology like the devil or whatnot, and it's like, oh, these kids are literally putting demons in their computers. These ki-
Well,
these kids are using TikTok to summon
in the
demons.
Megami games, they did do that literally early on. Because I
Nice.
think in the early ones, like for the NES, you would summon the demons from a computer. Um,
Yeah,
and you
it's
would
based
store them
on
there
a
and
book
stuff.
called Megami Tensei. It's about a kid who creates the demon summoning program, and then he's manipulated by a greater demon to more or less damn the universe. And so he
Mm.
has to use demon summoning to try and save his life.
Yeah, that's definitely where it came from. But
Yep.
that's what I'm saying is like in Pokemon, you can store the Pokemon on a computer. So I feel like that has to be inspired either by the book or by the Megami games.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. What was I gonna say? Oh, is there any monster from RPG games that you guys dig? Is there any like particular like little quirky little guy that appeals to you, gamer?
But one monster that you see a lot in a lot of RPGs that I always kind of liked. I mean, I don't like him in the games, but I like his design. Is the Mimic? He
Oh, you
kind of
talk.
looks like a treasure box and
Oh yeah,
tricks you.
that one's a
Um,
classic.
yeah.
I remember when what was it that someone said that the Voltorb in Pokemon is supposed to be a mimic, right?
Yeah.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's kind of where the idea came from, because a lot of people were like, well, why does he look like a Pokeball and he just explodes, when you encounter him? Like, what's the point of that? And it's like, oh, because he's supposed to be a mimic. He's supposed to like harm you when he sees you.
My
Well,
most
in the
recent
original
favorite mimic. Sorry.
in the original Pokemon games, the items that you found were in Pokeballs instead of treasure chests.
Yeah.
So and sometimes they would be a Voltorb, to surprise you. So it did basically function just like a mimic.
Mm-hmm,
But
mm-hmm.
in the later games, the items were no longer stored in Pokeballs, so they kind of lose that aspect.
True. The last Pokemon game I played was Soul Silver. I have not been up to date with any of them. I'm not even like that interested in them, to be honest.
Well, the last one
You're,
I played was Diamond and Pearl, so
oh
it's even
wow.
further back.
Yeah, I got Diamond when it came out. I think I was still like in middle school when it came out.
At this point, you're in Pokemon because you like are just a big kooky monster guy, or because you want to see all of the extremely horny designs for characters.
I think it's like a lot of like nostalgia at this point. They really do milk that nowadays.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably the case. I think Pokemon now might be more popular with millennials than children.
Yeah, true. I don't know too many. Well, I've heard of kids who are into Pokemon, but not too many. I think more kids are into like Freddy Fazbear nowadays than Pokemon. You know,
Yeah, and Fortnite.
and Fortnite, obviously.
And
Um,
Sonic EXE.
oh, they fucking love Sonic EXE. It's crazy.
Yeah,
You ever, you ever seen that? Do you ever see that one clip? Gamer, have you seen the second Sonic movie?
I haven't seen the second Sonic movie, but I do know Sonic EXE.
Do you care for spoilers?
Not really. I'm not exactly a big fan of the Sonic movies.
Yeah, yeah.
They
It was
kind of
what
peaked at the OVA.
Yeah, it was kind of whatever. That being said, at the end of the second Sonic movie, they reveal Shadow, and someone there was a clip going around where someone was recording the audience reaction of Shadow, and you could hear a kid saying, "Is that Sonic EXE?"
Oh no.
It
That's pretty funny. I didn't
was
know
pretty
that.
good.
I did know that Shadow was revealed because I saw pictures and stuff online, but I didn't know anybody actually said that in the audience. That is pretty funny. It kind of goes to show you how Sonic is just a big meme now, you
Right.
know. But it's probably hard for you guys to imagine. But back in the day, Sonic was actually not a meme. He wasn't a crappy. Uh,
He was a big deal.
Well, I
yeah,
I
he was
grew up
actually a big deal.
watching I grew up watching Sonic X, which was the time that they re-released Sonic Adventures on GameCube, and then they had the Sonic Advance series on Game Boy, which I also played. Last year I sold a bunch of my old games, and I realized I had a lot more Sonic games than I thought. Like I was playing way more Sonic games in retrospect than I usually like out there telling people, because I had Sonic Heroes, I had a Sonic Adventure 1 and 2, I had Sonic Gem Collection. I think I had Sonic Rush. Yeah, I had like a lot of Sonic games, but I've
As a
never
kid,
like
I was jealous of Gem Collection kids because Sonic CD was included in that collection. I was a
uh,
PS2 kid.
I got that Sonic Gem Collection as a gift because a buddy of mine was really into like the Sonic Collection series, because they pumped out a lot of those, and he
Yeah.
got me that one, and I thought it was fine. I mostly played Sonic Fighters on it, which I thought was pretty neat because there was like a bunch of new Sonic, not technically not new at that time, but characters I never heard of. Like, oh holy shit, who's Fang the Weasel? What the fuck? He has a gun? That's base.
Well, most people didn't know almost any of those characters because most of those characters were made exclusively for that game, and that was like an obscure arcade game that nobody played. So
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty interesting for a Sonic connoisseur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
some of them made appearances in the Archie comic, but if you never knew
oh
about
yeah.
fighters, you would assume they were Archie creations.
I remember I had one issue of the Archie Sonic comics I had was the one where Scrooge, what's his name, Scourge, the fucking evil Sonic.
Scourge.
Yeah, Scourge. I had the issue where he turns green. I remember.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and it was the same issue where like um Tails is the girl he had a crush on turned out to be evil, right? He's all crying because like, oh no, I can't believe I had a crush on someone that was evil and they broke my heart.
Yeah, I've heard that tale too many times.
Yep, exactly. Tails old its time. But anyway, this is my favorite kind of monster. I really like demon guys. Like I just really love Firebrand's design. I'm posting it. I'll probably post it in the video version of the podcast too. But
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a
Firebrand is.
pretty cool design.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Did you ever play the Demon's
Gargoyle.
Crest for the Super Nintendo?
I want to. I
It's so
want to.
good.
I played a little bit of Gargoyle's Quest 2. I would have played the first Gargoyle's Quest, but I saw a video where someone's like, "Oh, the second one is just the first one, but just like with slightly better graphics." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll just play the second one then." And I was digging it, but I kind of want to play it on an actual console because I was playing it emulated, and just the keyboard controllers just weren't working it for me. Like I got like to the first boss, but like it was a very annoying process, you know.
Or you should get a
So
gamepad. You can just use a gamepad as an emulator.
I've been
That's what I do.
I am slowly in the background, and by the background I mean not at all, but in the back of my mind I am like saving money for a Steam Deck because you could emulate stuff on that too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's gonna be my angle. I although I do have a my partner has a Switch, and I was thinking about getting that like remaster of Ghost and Goblins because that one looks pretty neat.
Oh,
I
yeah, the
played through.
graphics in that remaster are great.
You know, I played through all the Gargoyle's Quest and Demon's Crest games and stuff, and they're all pretty good. But the Super Nintendo one, Demon's Crest, that's the best of the three. It's kind of like a
Mhm.
trilogy, and they were all released on different platforms for some reason.
Yeah,
So that one is like, it's considered to be one of the best Super Nintendo games.
I think I wonder why they haven't released that into a collection. You know, it feels obvious if they're gonna keep doing the I just re-release old ass games.
Yeah,
You know,
those games
Capcom's
are all
probably
pretty high
thinking,
quality.
the kids don't like gargoyles. We'll sit on this one.
the
They
kids,
don't know. The
the
kids are
kids,
champing at the bit for gargoyles.
the kids, they. Someone needs to bring back gargoyles. Toby Fox needs to like bring a gargoyle character to the next Delta Ruin, so that can become the new like character everyone wants to suck off. You know what I'm saying?
The new Scrimblow meta.
Yeah, the new Scrimblow. Just like Spamton. You know what we're saying, gamer. You know what we're saying, gamer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also like Tiger Man from Dragon Quest because it's just like a guy in a tiger outfit.
Yeah, I
Oh,
remember
yeah.
that guy. You know, the Dragon Quest games have a lot of really cool, iconic designs as well.
Oh, true. Akira Toriyama was not like he was not playing around with those designs in those games. I have one of the art books for it. I think that's kind of what inspired me to like want to do a monster manual. We also are talking about having like all the monsters be under maybe Creative Commons or something. I want to have it that like I don't I like created the monsters but I don't own them. So if people want to put them in their own little campaigns when they're playing, I don't care. You know,
Mm.
because it's like we're giving like sure you're buying the monster manual off of us, but you could use the monsters in that manual for your own little projects. You know.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know if like you can put it in a public domain. I'm not sure how copyright stuff works.
I I wonder if it just like I because it's got to be a way for like this was created by this person, but anyone could kind of use it, without like having to like do the whole they could do that when I fucking die kind of thing.
Yeah.
Generally, you can ascribe whatever like copyright you want to a particular work as long as it's like documented and easily accessible publicly. Um,
Mm-hmm.
which is why a lot of people just use that Commons website to like block together what permissions they want to apply to a work, and then usually you'll see on someone's work, oh, Creative Commons code B65A version 3, and then you have to go read the Creative Commons page describing what that code represents and explains to you like the terms of what you're allowed to do and not do with the work.
Mm. All right, all right. I think we might just do that then, so we could because I think it'd be better if everyone, if I like that I'm giving the world more monsters to play around with. It doesn't bother me. I'm not trying to get any money off of it. I just like want people to know that I was involved in creating these. Here's one monster I came up with recently. I came up with this one while I was driving. I'm posting it right now. But it's basically like
Ooh.
it's a little jester guy who balances on a scythe.
Yeah,
He
that
likes
kind of
living on the edge.
I feel like this is actually a Dragon Quest-ish design, but for like a newer Dragon Quest game.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah, there's certain like kind of things like the way I drew like the kind of the eyes. One thing I noticed about Dragon Quest monsters is that they're always facing forward, you know?
Yeah, like
Like
Mickey Mouse's ears.
right, exactly. And I guess it just goes back to those original RPGs, is that it's for your POV, so you're looking at the monster and the monster's looking right at you,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, this guy is kind of like my take on a trope that I don't know where it started, but have you guys noticed that for some reason jester characters are always given like scythes as weapons?
Yeah, I've
Hmm.
seen it a few times.
Yeah, I'm like, what's up with that? What's up with that? Why is that? Why do they have scythes? What's the correlation? If someone knows, leave it in the comments below because I want to know why they always have scythe. Is it because their little hats are kind of pointy like a scythe, and then some guy a couple years ago saw that and was like, "Oh, they should wield scythes because they're pointy like their
That's
hats,"
possible.
right? I mean, it's a scythe is a very interesting weapon. It has a really cool silhouette. That being said, I think they're pretty impractical in actual battle. You know?
Yeah, probably, but in video games they don't really worry about that kind of stuff too
Oh
much.
no, that's why I love video games. Like, who cares about impracticability, right?
Yeah, it's
Also,
like Cloud wields that giant sword that is so heavy that you wouldn't even be able to pick it up.
right, exactly. But that's okay because Cloud is like an anime boy, and then they usually imply that they have like some super strength. So it's okay. We accept it.
Yeah,
My
he's
favorite trope
a
is like a guy with no boxing gloves, just normal gloves, like punching God.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah,
always
pretty
awesome.
much.
What was that? What were you saying, gamer?
Yeah, that's pretty much the JRPG playbook.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Speaking about monster designs, I posted this tweet earlier today, and I want to see if you guys get what I was saying with this tweet. But in the tweet, and I'll post the I won't post the fucking tweet. I'll just post like the picture for it in the video version. But it's a picture of the Cloverfield monster for anyone who's seen the Cloverfield movie. And I say in the tweet, we don't talk enough about how this design poisoned too many movie monsters, and basically how like after Cloverfield, like movie monsters just look like the Cloverfield monster to an extent, you know. And even till this day, I don't think we've moved past it. To be honest, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
pretty
just
much.
because they're not very creative, so people just use whatever generic designs are popular.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's like it looks neat for the Cloverfield monster, but when every one of them has like these long, like skinny pseudo gorilla arms, it's like I don't know, it's all the same. It's kind of boring. The last time a monster design really like wowed me was have you guys seen the movie Nope?
Oh yeah, I
Uh,
love that design.
I haven't seen it, so I guess
Uh,
it's a nope for me.
uh yeah. Are you a fan of the Jordan Peele movies, gamer? Have you seen Get Out or Us?
I'm not too much of a movie guy, more of a video game guy.
Oh well, I recommend you at least watch Nope. Um, do you care for like spoilers, uh, gamer, for movies?
I mean, I don't have a very good memory, so I'll probably forget all the spoilers by a couple of weeks
Okay,
later.
okay. Well, if there's one thing you should remember is you should watch Nope. If you haven't seen Nope, I guess I'll put a time code on screen for you could skip the spoilers. And I mean we kind of already I spoiled a little bit of it earlier, but well, I'll put it even earlier. Whatever. I'll put something. That being said, in Nope, um, in the movie, this our characters seem to be harassed from what appears to be a UFO, like a flying saucer, is above their like farm, their like kind of like property, and it's like taking horses, right? And they're all like, "Oh, this is like an alien flying saucer that's being machined by aliens, and it's flying around our house, right?" But anyway, towards like the third act of the movie, it's revealed that the flying saucer is not a flying saucer, but an actual creature that is like in the shape of a saucer, and it has a giant opening that's just a hole, and it vacuums up anything that's alive on the ground and sucks it in, and it slowly digests it in its body, right? And you could tell that it just ate because as it flies by, you could hear the sounds of whatever's inside of it, like still being digested, and they're like screaming, right? And the creature is very interesting because it looks like it's kind of made out of like a fabric material, but it's like it's like alive, and the movie never specifies what exactly it because in the movie they go like they either imply that maybe this is an alien or maybe this is like a creature that's just been on earth for years, right? And I like to think that it is like a creature that it does originate from earth. This is not an alien because the design kind of looks like a sand dollar. If you ever seen like the animal the sand dollar, which is like a little kind of like circle creature that lives in the ocean, and I like to think that the sand dollar and this creature have some sort of like um, common ancestor that they evolved from, and the creature kind of just like it evolved to eventually not really fly, but kind of like ride electromagnetic waves in the air. Because if you watch the movie, every time the creature flies by, like electricity stops working, and that's because the creature is like a magnet, and that's how it stays up in the air. You know,
So
that's
you're
my
saying it's a Chinese balloon?
yeah. It's a big old Chinese balloon, and it's a metaphor because the whole movie is about how Hollywood and the spectacle abuses us, and then here comes a big Chinese balloon indicating how much Hollywood has catered to the Chinese audience. That's really what the movie's about.
It
Um,
seems pretty interesting.
and really the monster is like only one aspect of the movie. The whole everything else the movie has got going for it is pretty good. It kind of reminds me of the movie Tremors. You guys seen Tremors?
Oh, I
Yeah,
love
I have seen that
Tremors.
one.
Classic. So it's kind of like Jordan Peele's take on Tremors. I'm a really big fan of like I don't see this too often in movies nowadays. Like maybe a couple of indie movies still do this, or like low budget movies. But when I really like the scenes where like there's a creature and our characters are trying to figure out like they're trying to strategize how to like either kill the creature or how they're gonna get around it. like the scene in Tremors where they realize like they think of like, oh, let's throw rocks and it's gonna hear the sound of the rocks, assuming there's something alive there, and move in that direction, and then we could jump off and like run away on a truck, like scenes like that, like they're trying to like outwit the creatures so they stay alive, right? And there's a big old there's like the ending of Nope is just a giant scene of them doing that, and it's very complicated because the creature is like in very multifaceted, and also it functions almost like it has little attributes that are very similar to an animal, like for example how like the hole that it has also works as like an eye. And you know how they say that with certain animals you shouldn't look them straight in the eye because that could come off as being aggressive. That's like applied
Yeah.
to this creature. It seems like anyone who just looks at it gets killed by it. And our main character, who has raised horses all his life, knows you're not supposed to do that. So that's how he's kind of like aware that like, oh, this thing, it's an eye, and if I look at it, it's gonna want to like attack me. And that becomes like a little thing they keep in mind when they're trying to like fend off like the creature you know Anyway, highly recommend Nope. Really good movie. I really want to rewatch it. I haven't seen it since I saw it in theaters. But yeah, that's my little Nope, little
It's a peak
discussion about
monster
Nope.
design.
Yeah,
A lot better than the Cloverfield monster, which I haven't heard anyone mention at all in all these years. The Cloverfield monster just looks like those demons from the James Gunn Scooby Doo.
true, true. You know what? What's kind of also like annoying about the Cloverfield monster is that it's a very mid design. His body's in the shape of an M too. So for mid, right? So
It kind of reminds me of those things you encounter at the end of the first Uncharted.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if anyone remembers that.
wait, wasn't that the
it's kind of hard
this
to remember.
wasn't that the second Uncharted?
No, it's the first one. At the very end of the first one, there are like these creature things you encounter.
Oh,
Um, it's pretty weird because up to that point, the game was really, I guess, quote unquote
real.
realistic.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, monsters show up.
Yeah, I remember something like that happened in Uncharted 2, which is the only Uncharted game I played, because you're like at the temple place or whatever, and then out of nowhere these kind of like gorilla men start showing up.
Yeah, I think
And
they did that in a few of the Uncharted games. Maybe they do that in all of them, where at the
that
very end something mystical or weird paranormal happens.
that's so
They really
weird.
wanted it to be like Indiana Jones, but like, extreme.
I feel like Indiana Jones does the first three Indiana Jones do a way better job at like um the mystic. There's a variety of like mystical shit that happens in those movies, right? While
Yeah,
God,
it's just in Uncharted. It seemed jarring to me because it happened so late in the game. There's like almost no game left, and then all of a sudden they just pull that out on you, and it's I mean, I guess it's not bad, but it just feels kind of weird. Is like weird mystical creatures appear right at the end.
It
that's
It's
is
like
foreshadowed, but like you don't really get an opportunity to like grab onto it mentally because every time it comes up, the characters kind of do their whole like, oh yeah, whatever. Come on, let's go get that treasure.
that's pretty
I
good.
think in the first game in particular, you have no reason to believe that any of the mystical uh, talk early on actually means anything
Yeah.
because the game is like really realistic at first, sort of.
And the
Um,
backdrop of the setting also kind of makes it just seem like, oh, this is just like the myth that these indigenous people had.
yeah.
They just made stuff up. Ooh.
But then by the second game, you're supposed to already be aware that there's mystical stuff, but they kind of go back into, you know, uh, acting like there is no mystical stuff and it's all ridiculous, even though
Yeah.
you kind of already saw that at the end of the first one. You know,
No, that
it's something that's kind of annoying sometimes about a narrative series where at the end of at the beginning of the next game they kind of just reset everything back to the default values and it's as if everything that happened last
yeah,
game didn't matter.
like we're supposed to continue on living even though we know that like these like monster men exist out there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And they're continuing on living as if there is no paranormal stuff. You know, like at the beginning of the second game, they're just every time they hear legends about mystical things, they're like, "Oh, that's obviously not real." You
It,
know, and it doesn't make sense to have that attitude by the second game, is what I mean.
it kind of, you know what? That, although I'll say this, there's like, not gonna lie, there's people like that in real life. Not that mystical supernatural shit exists, but that people go on living thinking that exists and they live their everyday lives, you know? Like if you ever on TikTok, I sometimes I get TikToks about like the Appalachian Mountains and oh, you know about the who's it what's it man who like enters your home and eats your skin. Well, just make sure you have salt around your house, and then everyone in the conversation is like, oh yeah, that's what my grandma always put salt around the house, you know, and it's like, oh, we're just gonna keep existing, believing that there's this guy out there who takes our skin if we don't have salt around our house, and we're just gonna, these people just wake up, they pay their electrical bill, and then they go out and they put salt around their house, and it's like it's just a very normal thing.
Well,
I'm
you know
gonna
what
have
they
to
say.
steal "Who's It,
You
What's It,
know,
Man."
you know what they say. Art imitates life, or life imitates art.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Oh man, what was it good? What was I about to say? Who's it? What's it, man? Yeah, you could beat me. You could try to beat me to it, Julian. You could try. I'm pretty good at pumping out guys with funny names. Oh man,
I can try.
you could try.
But you know, Earthbound has a lot of guys with funny names, like the New Age retro hippie,
Oh yeah,
or
Oh yeah, that was
that is pretty.
hilarious.
you know, the
It's pretty
unassuming
funny that
man.
you fight like a hippie. I had I have a couple of like little weird guys for mine. I'm gonna look through it real quick, but before we get any further, let me by the time this episode comes out, which should be on a Wednesday, I will have pre-orders available for my comic series. Well, for my comic, Mick Pagliacci, gamer. Have you heard about Mick Pagliacci?
Yeah, I saw you post some of it on Twitter, I think.
Yep, Mick Pagliacci is my parody adaptation of the original opera Pagliacci, starring the Ronald McDonald Land gang, right? And yeah, it's gonna be available for pre-orders. The it's like a little 8x5 zine. It's gonna be 64 pages, first both Act One and Act Two, and the ink is gonna be red, just like I posted online. But also the paper is yellow. It's like yellowish, so it looks kind of like burger wrapper, right? And it's every copy comes with like a free Fry Guy sticker that I made, you know. So get them. You could go to my Twitter. I think on my Instagram. We'll even link it down below, the pre-order form. So just fill that out. It's gonna be, whether I change my mind or not. I'm pretty sure I'm sticking with it. It's $15 plus shipping and handling, right? And if you loved Mick Pagliacci, if you loved Mick Pagliacci, my comic, then you're gonna love the physical form of it. So buy it now. That's this video was sponsored by Mick Pagliacci, made by
Yeah,
me.
it looks pretty cool from what I've seen.
It's pretty good. It's also a good way to get cultured while having a fun time. You know, you know what I'm
You
saying?
should, if you like the McDonald's characters, you should check out Ronald McDonald's Treasureland Adventure for the Sega Genesis.
I heard that's actually a good game. Is what I keep
Yeah,
hearing.
it's made by Treasure, who made Gunstar Heroes and
Oh, I
Dynamite
love
Headdy.
Treasure.
So it's legit a really good game, like one of the best Genesis games.
You know, fuck. You know what? There's a bunch of Easter eggs in Make Pagliacci. Like, there's a lot of crowd shots, and I put in a lot of characters that have only appeared in one commercial. You know, among the crowd, and there was moments where I was like, not running out of characters, but I was trying to think of characters to fill the void, and there's so many that I forget of characters that only appear in that video game that I could have added into the McPuglachi. You know, there's also another Ronald McDonald's game, which is there's one for NES, and I think it's called Donald Land. And I played a little bit of it, and it's not that good. It kind of works a little bit like Super Mario Bros. 2, but not as like intuitive, I guess. There's something about Super Mario Brothers 2 that feels kind of more like natural, you know, like things make sense in this surrealist world in Super Mario Bros. 2 compared to in Donald Land for the NES, where like for some reason Ronald's main weapon is that he throws little bombs, but he doesn't fling them. He throws them just where he's standing. He can only place them where he was previously standing for some reason. And it's very weird mechanic. Like it doesn't feel that intuitive to like Ronald as like a character, you know. And
Well, as
that
far as I know, the only other McDonald's game that maybe is good is I think there's one for the Game Gear, which maybe is also made by Treasure, but I'm not 100% sure. It seems similar to the Genesis one.
I thought you were
So,
gonna say McKids was the other one. I think that one's
no, that
also.
one's not that great. I mean, it
I
might
thought
not
you were
be
going
the
to mention
worst,
the
but
training software they created for the Nintendo DS.
Oh,
Like,
uh,
imagine
I'm not aware
getting
of
your
that one.
job at McDonald's and then they hand you a DS. Like, here it is, your McDonald's training.
was that for McDonald's? I thought that was for another place that did that. But I heard about that they had like a training they had a training cartridge for the DS.
I'm pretty sure I saw one for McDonald's, unless that was fake. But there was
Um,
also a hotel that had that.
I know there was a guy who mod his Nintendo DS to help him take photos. And that was pretty interesting. I still have my DS and I play it from time to time. I really need to get a copy. I really want to get an original copy of Bowser's Inside Story. That's the one of that's of those first three Mario and Luigi games. That's the one I haven't played.
Hmm.
It's pretty good.
No,
Yeah, a lot of
I
people
agree.
consider that one to be the best in the series.
hmm Yeah, it looks good. I really like the first one. The first I grew up on the first one, and for the longest time I couldn't beat it because I came from a household that didn't speak English, so I mostly knew Spanish, and so they really at school they really had to drill it in to me to speak English, and because of it I had trouble reading English, and because of that I had trouble beating certain video games because I didn't know what text boxes were saying. You know, I had to kind of really just guess things, right?
Hmm.
Eventually, when I learned how to read English better, I did manage to beat Superstar Saga, you know.
Well,
But
I had a similar experience with Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, but the difference is, English is my native language, but when I first played that game, I was young and I wasn't too great at reading,
hmm
just in general.
no, that makes sense. A lot of kids like really struggle with reading. It could be like a whole assortment of different things that could have caused it, you know, and made
I'm
it.
kind of jealous. I never played video games before I knew how to read. So I might be missing out on like some sort of a
be
formative
being
childhood
being bad
experience.
at video games, you're missing out at being bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the wonder of like experiencing the adventure of a video game
what
because you can't read anything.
you could still experience that, Julian. Just play something in a language you don't understand. You know.
Yeah, like in
Yeah, you can play
Japanese.
a game in Japanese.
Yeah, there's so many games out there that haven't been like fully translated. You know, like I remember, what was it like Tomato Land, the game that Alpha Dreams made before Mario and Luigi? That one hasn't been translated yet, and that one looks really good. And I really want to play that, but it's all in Japanese. So I
There
mean,
are
Well, I
also a
think
bunch of Fullmetal Alchemist games.
I
Those are
think
pretty
somebody
fun.
is working on translation for Tomatoland. Might be translator. He used to go by the name of Tomato actually.
oh, is that the same? I thought that was is that a person or is that a group? Because isn't that the same people that did Mother 3?
But Tomato is a person, and he worked on Mother 3, but I think he worked with other people. He worked with a group on Mother 3, I
Mm,
think.
word. Yeah, the Mother 3 translation, pretty good. I haven't played Mother 3 though. That's another hole in my video game experience. I'm kind of like behind on a lot of. I rarely people already know this. I rarely play games. I'm too busy finishing like artistic projects, and then when I finish them, I usually play a little bit of a game. Usually a game that I've had in my like wish list on Steam for a while. I just recently got into Puyo Puyo Tetris, which has been pretty good. Having a lot of fun with that game. But I only play that from like time to time, you know. Last time I played it was when I actually finished drawing all of Mick Pagliacci. I was like, all right, I'm just gonna play video games for a day, you know, just to
Yeah, video
relax.
games are pretty time consuming, so it's hard to find the time to play them.
Right. Yeah, and it's I mean, I get it if it's your job online to talk about video games, right? But
Yeah, either that or if you're a loser, then
true.
you have plenty of time.
Exactly. Exactly.
In the
Or
real world, I'm Charles McClawkey and I suck, but in the video game world, I'm Mega Man.
I'm a Super Mario in the video game world. Oh, that reminds me. There's a speaking of other tweets I want to talk about. Friend of the show, and by friend of the show I mean he's just buddies with me as far as I know. Is Galactabee, and he recently tweeted out something that was kind of contentious, specifically to the Sonic fandom. And I'm gonna post it, and you guys tell me if you saw this. But he got a bunch of feathers ruffled after he posted this, and but the thing is that I fully agree with what he posted, and I think it's a very true thing. I'm glad he said it. It's super funny. I am scrolling through his media tab right now looking for it because he did the dumb mistake of arguing with every single person who like approached them, you know. But
Pretty brave of him to fight Sonic fans.
yeah, exactly. Pretty not even something I'm willing to do it. Because I quote tweeted him saying agreeing with his statement, and I got like a little bit of splash damage from other Sonic fans. But I did the smart thing of like if I see one annoying person to me on Twitter, I instantly mute them, and if they seem very like awful, I block them because I just don't have time for that. But he posted this. You seen it? You seen this gamer?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. What do you think of this?
I mean, I don't think it's that controversial. It's pretty obvious that the Sonic movie, they probably wanted to save money or didn't have that much money, so they figured, well, if you just have one CGI character, it's cheaper than making an entire, CGI movie. And
hmm
Nintendo was a bigger company, it was a bigger budget, so
In
uh,
hindsight, they wanted to save money. That first, like, rough cut Sonic was like,
Oh yeah.
oh, they didn't spend any money, did they?
I
yeah, they
think
wanted to save money, but there's also the question of, well, how much money do they have? Sega is not super successful these days.
I think I I think another thing. Damn, it was on the tip of my tongue, but I'm pretty sure when they were like pitching this to a big producer, and they really had to kind of like make Sonic like sound good. So I'm pretty sure what they said was like, "Oh yeah, you know, he's kind of like it's like the Smurfs, but it's just one Smurf and he has a superpower, right?" And that's kind of like the angle that they kept on going with the second one, which is like now there's three of them, so they're like Alvin and the Chipmunks, but they have superpowers, you know?
I
Because
think, in my opinion, it's a pretty stupid concept, but I've heard that the Sonic movies are surprisingly not terrible,
no,
and
it's not. It's they're not
better
like
than people thought.
they're not the worst thing ever. I'll say this, but they're very just average movies to me. The second one I liked more, but like the first one wasn't really a high bar, you know.
Well,
That's kind of
for Sonic these days, average is pretty good.
oh yeah, true, true. But this Mario movie is really looking like it's really just like I'm excited, but I feel like if I was younger, I'd be way more excited about this. This feels like the movie that should have come out when I was like uh 12 years old or like 8 or something.
Yeah,
Because
I
it
can
would have been
imagine a
great
kid
if
being very excited by it.
yeah.
it would have been great. It would have been great if I watched this movie as a kid instead of the Mario Bros. Movie from like the 1980s.
I'll tell you this.
Uh,
I love that movie.
I never got to see it. They were going to show it on Toon Disney one time, and my dad said no, and I don't know why.
Damn.
yeah,
I
that's a Mario movie I grew up with.
that that movie's great. And the older when I first watched it, I didn't like it, but as I got older, I kind of like moved past the whole it being an adaptation and trying to look at it as its own thing. And I kind of do like this kind of like clunky, like weird, like wannabe cyberpunk ish story that they got going for it. I think what also helped was that it was very weird. Like they had to make everything even. That like Mario was already weird, but they made it weird in a different way. And I think that was another thing that the Sonic movie was lacking. It should have been a little bit
Well,
more
to be
weird.
honest, as terrible as that Mario movie was, I actually did like it as a kid. But I think it's only because it was Mario, and I was obsessed with Mario back then.
Right. Also, fun fact: I lost my virginity while watching that movie. So
Wow.
I share a certain special connection to it that way. You
Well,
know.
there's no better movie. There is no better movie for that.
Yeah, exactly. The movie's very, the movie is like weirdly horny in some places. That's what the Sonic movie was missing. It should have been weirdly horny in certain areas.
You needed more of that, like, busty owl mom. But
Exactly.
apparently she died.
You know, all
Spoilers.
the movies in the '80s were kind of like that. They had a lot of scenes like that. You know,
Hmm.
even kids movies.
Right. Exactly. That's a big thing that the MCU movies are missing. They're not like weirdly. They're not. They don't have like. There's not really any horny scenes. I guess except for I guess in She-Hulk, she does have sex and she's like looking for men to have sex with, and she fucks Daredevil in the show, and I guess that's fine. That's fine, but like like I think after Iron Man 2, like the Iron Man as a character is not horny anymore. You know,
Yeah, he got too
he got
wound up
domesticated.
into saving the world stuff.
Right, exactly. He got too busy.
You guys don't remember that deleted scene where they shot off his penis?
Yeah, Thanos shot off his penis, and he's like, "Oh no, my penis!" And then like the nanomachine suit like made him a new penis. And
Yeah,
it wasn't that big of a deal. And they're like, "Oh, do we really need this scene in the movie?"
Yeah, why is there a 5 minute extended cut of him telling his bodyguard Happy how Pepper loves it, but he doesn't feel anything?
He doesn't feel anything at all. His nerves have been shot off.
yeah, it's kind of like that scene from Metal Gear Solid 5, where the they played us like a fiddle or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Played us like a fiddle. Yeah, that's a pretty great line. Too. 10 out of 10.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a lot of funny, iconic meme lines from that game.
True. The game is great. Can't wait to play it one day. But the game is great.
I love those
Oh boy.
codex messages
Okay,
of
so
Miller trying to upsell Code Talker on his burgers. And this, like,
Yeah,
indigenous guy is just, like, getting burger pilled.
yeah. There's goofy stuff like that in every Metal Gear game. It wouldn't be one without that kind of thing.
Yeah.
pretty good. All right. I think we're coming close to the end of our podcast, and every time we get to the end, we ask. Actually, no. Before we actually get to the end, I wanna state the catchphrase of the podcast. But I want to see if Gamer could guess what the catchphrase is. What's the catchphrase, Gamer?
Um, I don't know. Shine get. Anyone remember that from Mario Sunshine?
Shine Get.
I remember.
Y'all remember that old game, Mario Sunshine? It's very
Oh, God, it
old.
is old.
Earlier
Those
the
games are like 20 years old now.
earlier in the car where I get all my best ideas, I was wondering why hasn't anyone like gone in and like tried to like fix Mario Sunshine, kind of like that one guy who's like slowly going through Sonic '06 and like fixing it. There should be a
Oh,
guy.
they have. Sunshine has a huge modding scene.
Oh, so someone's already like, so someone has fixed the Pachinko game then in Mario Sunshine. Is what you're saying?
Hopefully. Mostly of what I've seen is they like turning it into an open world game. So like they remove the loading screens, they create new levels, uh, make some adjustments to the jump mechanics. I haven't actually tried any of them for myself yet because they're all still in beta.
That's pretty cool. I think Mario 64 is the one that gets like the most attention in the modding scene. Gets the most amount of memes, and I mean, yeah, I guess because it's just a much bigger fan base. I grew up with Sunshine, you know, so I'm more interested in that.
So then, "Shine Get" was the perfect catchphrase.
Yeah, exactly. But no, the catchphrase is that we love women. That's the catchphrase. I'm bringing that back, especially now. Uh, daily of our weekly reminder that Roe v. Wade has been overturned and we need it back. And I won't stop reminding the people out there until it happens. We need these reminders. I'm doing this for the country, for the good of country. That's why
And that's definitely a message that Dick Masterson can get behind.
exactly
You know,
exactly
get it? Get behind.
ha 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 yeah. No, but we usually wrap up this each episode with like choosing someone who deserves to get canceled this week, and I want to ask if you guys have anyone in mind that you think needs to get out of here, needs to just leave and then never return, and anyone in mind that pissed you off this week.
I do have one. I've been coping and seething over this one guy on Twitter for the past week or so.
Okay, his name is Cheesymanfredo. No, wait, who is
No.
it?
They're a Japanese artist. Their whole thing is they like taking Rio from City Hunter and like drawing him in wacky scenarios. Like whatever the anime girl of the month is, he's got to draw them with Rio just hanging out and being cool. But like all last month, all this guy would tweet about is how he's been shadow banned on Twitter.com, and he's being very cringe about it. He even drew a picture of Rio being angry because the guy that drew him has been shadow banned. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? Stop this. This is cringe.
Wait, why did he get shadow banned?
I don't think it was explained unless I missed it. I have to like manually translate every tweet. So if there was a reason given, I don't know what it is.
He probably was making fun of Elon Musk or something.
Did he draw Rio like shooting Elon Musk or something?
Oh, I wish. He would be my hero.
Running him over. What's I know that Rio is in that Shonen Jump fighting game that came out a couple of years
Jump
back.
Force.
Yeah, and there's his special, like his final attack is that he makes a car flip over you and then he shoots the car with a bazooka.
That's a pretty good special.
That's pretty good special. I know that game was like was trying to cater to like the U.S. market, but having Rio was a very interesting choice, I feel.
Yeah, he's more of a like French favorite and Japanese, of course.
I guess maybe they assumed that like, oh, we don't want to pick anyone too weird, so they thought, oh, Rio is like your average. What's the City Hunter take? Does the City Hunter take place in Japan?
Yeah, it does.
She's your average Japanese detective who gets into these gunfights and whatnot, and I guess that's palpable to an American audience, right? It's not too weird. I mean, if they really wanted to appeal to Americans, they should have just put more Dragon Ball Z characters into the game.
Yeah, just turn it into a Budokai Tenkaichi 4.
Yeah, they booted,
which now exists.
Yep, exactly. I remember growing up, I had friends, I had cousins who were really good at that game, and they would always kick my ass. It was so annoying because I never got good at those games. I always wanted to be good at the game, but it never happened, and then I just missed out, which is a big old.
Yeah, yeah, you missed out on being good.
Right, exactly. I did.
That's the trouble with fighting games. Once everyone understands the meta, it's like, oh, well, if you don't know every frame of every animation, go play another game, scrub.
Yeah, that's that's the big old annoying thing about it. Okay, now who do I want to cancel this week? Currently, right now, I just got this idea. I tweeted out someone. Maybe I mentioned this earlier, but no, I don't think I did. But someone said something about how could there be conservative One Piece fans, and they post a clip from One Piece that like kind of shows people with conservative values as the big enemy of the series, right? And and everyone was arguing. Every conservatives were coming out. They were arguing against this point. Yada yada. I mean, the thing is that just conservatives are stupid and dumb, and they don't have media literacy, so they can really just enjoy anything without thinking about it too hard, right?
True.
That being said, on the opposite side of that, there's a lot of movies that I enjoy that I don't necessarily agree with, but I'm not to toot my own horn. I feel like I could fully explain what about it that I like, and also talk about what is it about it that doesn't like vibe well with me. Like movies like Wolf of Wall Street. I like that movie. I think it's probably one of the most entertaining Martin Scorsese movies ever made. But what the movie is ultimately like, not that it was saying this on purpose, but what the movie ultimately presents, I feel, is a very kind of like malicious and kind of a bad thing, because the whole
The
movie.
glamorization of market manipulation.
Well, I think the thing is the fact that the Leo DiCaprio character is based on a real guy who's still alive, and the movie is based on the book that he wrote. And I know that Martin Scorsese, a lot of his characters, his whole thing is that his characters are people who can't help but be bad people, right? Like they even though there's so many opportunities for them to change and be better, they themselves either see themselves as bad, or the things that they just comes to them naturally are just bad things, so they just can't change, right? And that's the same with the Leo character in Wolf of Wall Street, right? That being said, since this is based on a real person who's still alive, and he cameos at the end of the movie, and ultimately the movie, it kind of shows that he got away with it, right? Like what is it saying? Like that this whole life he led, sure, eventually his life got screwed, but he made it out on the other side, and he continues to do the awful shit that he's always been doing. Like he hasn't really changed much, And it's not like if I had to compare it to another movie, it's not like in American Psycho where like the character wants to not necessarily change, but he wants to be individualized. He wants to stand out. He wants to be a person, but the society around him have kept it to make sure that he isn't, that he can't be one. So it's more commentary on his environment. He doesn't, even though he is like a serial killer, that doesn't make him stand out to all the fucking other yuppies. He's still a yuppie. He's gonna stuck being a yuppie forever, right? Because he just can't get out of it.
Right.
That being said, what was my point? To the subset of people that like, that there's this group of people that think that just because you talk about like the politics of something means you're not enjoying that thing, which is a weird thing to like. It's a very weird thing to say, because ultimately what politics are is just like the functions of a society, right? And you could like look at a piece of work that you enjoy and still talk about what does it say about like society. I think the only way you can't say that about a piece of work is whether or not the work doesn't take place in a society, but that's almost impossible, because like all art is like made in a society, so it is saying something about it, to an extent, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm gonna cancel idiots. I'm gonna cancel stupid people who are always in my mentions. Fuck them. They suck. I don't like them.
But that's impossible. There will always be more of those.
Exactly. Exactly. I'm kind of like Batman, where there'll always be new. No, I'm more like the Punisher. I'm never gonna run out of guys to shoot, I guess.
Well, you're more like the Punisher because you're not a billionaire like Batman.
Right, exactly. But I could easily become a psycho with a gun. I think anyone could become one, which is why we see that a lot nowadays.
Remember when the Punisher had a techie sidekick and like a monster car with some kind of like missile guns?
Every other like couple of years, they always give Punisher like a new gimmick to kind of like throw him into a new scenario. I think the last thing was that they made him like the headmaster of a ninja clan. Was like the last big
What?
thing they did to him. Yeah, they even like changed his logo to make it look like kind of like a samurai skull thing. It was yeah. I mean that's comics for you. They always change up the gimmicks of a character once in a while. That being said, gamer, is there anyone you wish to cancel? Anyone who deserves to be put under the boot?
Yeah, I think we should cancel that Adolf Hitler guy.
Yep, agreed.
That guy was pretty bad. Did you see what he wrote in that main Kampf
In that book,
book?
oof, atrocious. Did you hear about the things he did in real life? Awful, awful man.
Yeah.
Daily reminder. You heard it here first, folks. Daily reminder. Hitler was bad, and if you like Hitler, you're a bad person. And
One thing that I love about the Hitler discourse is that he's also not really good at art.
true.
So, it really goes to show you can't be like good at art and like, oh no, it would be the opposite of what I mean.
I think
Well, he
Shitty
was
people are shit at art.
he was much better at genocide than art.
I think well, I mean, I guess it didn't work out because the Jews are still around. So how good could he have been in it? You know.
Well,
Um,
success is on a spectrum. So, you know,
What if they had League of Legends when he was a kid? He could have gotten his frustrations out by just like genociding minions.
yeah, I guess.
yeah, he could have just spent his time on League of Legends, just calling people the N word.
What was
Probably would have been better.
that's kind of like what happened to Elliot Roger, only instead of League of Legends it was World of Warcraft, and it like stunted him socially, which is why he could never get a
Damn.
girlfriend. And I mean, ultimately, I guess that means that less people would have been killed. I guess. Oh man, I was gonna something
Just a few less.
um something earlier. Oh, okay. If there's a big lesson we could take from Hitler is that failed artists are evil people and they should be killed. You know, like you notice that that's like kind of the thing. Like Steven Crowder, failed comedian. Like Ben Shapiro, failed scriptwriter. I bet Jordan Peterson was a failed something too. I bet all these guys were like a failed artist in a way, and
Well,
they always just
wasn't he like a psychologist or something?
yeah. But he had like an actual like doctorate and everything.
If I recall, Steve Bannon wanted to be a movie producer, but no one will let him make movies.
He looks like a movie producer. He looks like Harvey Weinstein's brother. If you ever seen a picture of him,
Oh yeah.
they both look very fucking. They're
Yeah.
both like big, gross guys with shitty beards. It's atrocious. But yeah, you heard it here first. The first podcast to cancel Adolf Hitler. We did it.
And yeah, when you think about it, also maybe we should cancel Batman.
Yeah, sure.
Because he's kind of like Mr. Beast when you think about it. He's a
True.
billionaire trying to help the lower classes, but
True.
he could just help by giving all his money.
True. A hard agree. Finally, someone says it. Someone said the thing we're all thinking. You know, I kind of want to do this yearly thing where every year I have like a different like clown comic come out, and I think the next one I'm gonna do this year would have been Mick Pagliacci, but next year, or I might even do it this year. I don't know. I'm thinking about just doing a comic based on my fan fiction for Joker 2, because for my sequel for the Joker, and in that one I have Batman as the bad guy, and
Hmm.
as like an evil Batman. Because
You know, my favorite thing about Batman has always been the Joker, and I always kind of root for the Joker to win secretly.
secretly you're kind of a Joker on the inside, is what you're saying.
I just hate billionaires.
Would you say you're like the Joker of YouTube gaming? Would you say that, Gamers Tavern?
Yeah, that would be a great label.
That's your tagline.
Yeah,
Oh
the
boy,
the YouTube Joker.
the YouTube Joker, as they call you. Um, all right. Okay, so yeah, that's it. Well, we're at the end of our podcast. Is there anything you want to show, Gamer Tavern, before we close out?
Yeah, you know, you can check out my stuff at gamerstavern.com, and you can go to the Gamers Tavern show or Gamers Tavern TV YouTube channel, and that's where all my stuff is at.
Nice. Check that
I've been
out.
to the Gamers Tavern website. It's pretty good.
Check it out for all your gamer needs. Check it out. Julie, you got anything you wanna show before we close out?
Nope, nothing on my end, but you will know when there's something available.
Nice. And with me, you already know today's episode is sponsored by Make Paglachi. Get your own copy, pre-order it. There's going to be a link down below, I think, in the comments section. We're doing this. It's a limited time pre-order. The last day to pre-order your copy of Make Paglachi will be the 26th of March of this year of this recording, and that should be obvious in case you're listening to this like years later.
I have my copy. Don't get left behind.
Don't get left behind. You know, you're gonna. I don't know when I'm gonna do this again. I'm really aiming for McDonald's to send me like a cease and desist or something. Oh boy! All
Yeah,
right,
that increase your publicity by quite a bit.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. So anyway, yeah. Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye bye.
All right,
Sayonara.
later.